One day Goose walked out of her house wrapped in her buntin. She was heading over to Lena's pool for a chat, and bounded along happily, singing to herself every now and then. "Do, do, dee, do, 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 do." As Goose neared the pool, she saw that Lena already had a visitor. It was Sunyat the seal. They were both sitting in the pool, blissfully enjoying the warm sun, although every time Sunyat moved around and splashed some water, Lena looked a little upset. Lena liked to keep her water in the pool, usually moving around very gently herself, while Sunyat seemed to be the noisy spraying type. It appeared to be making Lena a trifle nervous, although she did seem to be enjoying his visit. Watching them from a distance, Goose began to feel a little peeved. She had wanted to talk to Lena alone, about buntins and other things that only a goose and a hippo could understand. But she decided to walk over and say hello, now that she had come such a long way.
"Hi there, Lena and Sunyat. You seem to be doing quite a bit of splashing about, I don't mind saying."
Hi, Goose. Sunyat like to splash water. I don't.
"We don't do it, thank you."
And just then Sunyat rolled over on his back, splashing some water onto Goose and her buntin.
"Ooh, don't you, for crying out."
Not nice. Sunyat, sorry.
"Oh, that wasn't very neighborly of him, thank you. My buntin is quite wet, I don't mind saying." "Ooh,
Hang up to dry.
ooh, I think I'll take a walk over to Monk's treehouse and hang it up on one of his trees, don't you know. Oh."
So Goose walked over to Monk's house and looked around for a nice tree. She wanted to ask Monk for some advice, but she couldn't find him anywhere, and so, with a little sigh, she draped the buntin over one of the branches of a drooping willow tree and sat down to watch it dry. But after a while, Goose began to get a little tired, because although the sun was beating down quite hard, the buntin seemed to be drying very slowly. She didn't know what to do. She was afraid to leave it hanging there in the tree, but she was getting very bored just watching it. And just then Sweetest came romping along and found Goose staring up at the tree.
"Hi there, Goose, old buddy. What are you looking for up in that tree?"
"It's my buntin, thank you. I'm hanging it up to dry."
"Well, don't just stand there watching it, dumb. Don't you know that a watched buntin never dries?" Got it! Got it! No.
"We don't make jokes about the buntin, thank you."
Sorry about that, Goose, old buddy. Seems to have slipped my mind, is what?
"I must say I am getting a bit sleepy watching it dry, don't you know."
Sure as shootin', Goose, old buddy. Hey, I got an idea. Why don't you come over to the pond and ask Tinkerbell if he's got any way of making it dry faster?
"Well, I don't like to leave my buntin alone, but maybe just for a little while."
Come on, Goose. You gotta get over that buntin complex.
"Well, I could take it with me, but then it wouldn't be drying out. Maybe I better leave it. 'Kay, Sweetest?"
That's the spirit, Goose. Let the buntin fend for itself is what I always say, is what?
So Sweetest and Goose headed off to the pond for some expert advice. They found Tink soaking happily, immersed in his aquatic experience. Snee was sitting nearby, arranging his bow tie by using the clear surface of the water as a mirror.
Well, hello there, Sweetest and Goose. Noon so soon?
No, it's still morning, Tinkle Buddy. But Goose here needs a little idea for her buntin.
Her buntin, is it? Go right ahead, Goose. Tell me what the trouble is. Or should I say where the trouble lies?
Maybe you should say that, Tink. Well, my buntin got splashed by Sunyat and is quite wet, thank you. I was wondering if you got any way of making it dry fast, don't you know?
Well, I have a speedy dry cleaning method, but I may have to do a bit of thinking for a simple drying problem.
Why don't you pretend you're cleaning it, Tink, and then maybe it'll get dry at the same time.
That's it! What a splendid and transparent solution! You see, when I am dry cleaning, I must not only be cleaning, but also drying. What a magnificent linguistic camouflage!
My gosh, all that for the stupid buntin?
Ooh, you better mind them manners.
Let us dispense with verbal browbeating. I am anxious to try out my cleaning techniques.
But Tinkle Buddy, it's still morning. You gotta keep soaking until later.
Oh, I don't mind making an exception every now and again. When I am really anxious to undertake an undertaking, I generally undertake it, thank you. I am sure Safflower would phrase it much more succinctly.
Let's go, everybody.
And so they all rushed off to Monk's house to dry clean the buntin. Tink was bouncing up and down, anticipating his work. But when they arrived at the tree, the buntin was gone. They searched and searched, but still couldn't find it anywhere. The buntin was missing. It was lost. Goose sat down slowly, unable to control herself.
I knew I should never have left it alone. Oh, what's a goose to do without her buntin?
Don't worry, Goose, old buddy. We can make you another buntin just like the one Lena's got.
We don't do it, thank you. My buntin is a real goose's buntin. Lena's is a cheap imitation, don't you know? Oh, it's fine for her, but not fitting for a goose, I don't mind saying. Oh my, what are we going to do?
Let us not be too hasty. We can call for a meeting later and search all of China for the buntin. I am sure we will uncover it somewhere.
Oh, my buntin! Oh, I need my buntin! Oh.
While they were sitting unhappily by the treehouse, Monk was dragging a big puffy blanket through the woods on his way to Jowl's house. He had found it hanging on one of his trees, and not realizing that it was Goose's buntin, had decided that it was perfect for one of Jowl's favorite games, throwing mud and carrot tops at a clean target. The buntin was quite clean and big enough to serve as the target. Monk bounced around happily, eager to play the game. After a while he arrived at the pen and showed the buntin to Jowls. They set it up on a nearby tree, and then for the next few hours enjoyed themselves thoroughly, spattering mud and carrot tops all over the buntin. Finally, after they had finished, Monk took it off the tree and dropped it gingerly in a bush nearby. Later in the day, Sweeteth was doing some cleaning near Jowl's pig pen. As she stopped to mop her brow, she spied something sticking out of one of the bushes. Interested, she bent over to see what it was, and to her mixed delight and horror, she found the Buntin smeared with grit and grime, absolutely filthy and dripping dirt.
Ugh! That's quite a Buntin, all right. I better get this clean before Goose sees it.
And so Sweeteth dragged the Buntin quickly through the woods as she hurried off to Tink's house, every now and then looking over her shoulder to make sure that Goose couldn't see what was happening. When Tink looked at the Buntin, he was stunned and spoke to Sweeteth in an emotional voice.
Oh, this is a black day indeed. We must clean it quickly, for should Goose see the Buntin in such a state of repair, she would be traumatized forever.
And then Tink and Sweeteth headed down to Lena's pool. Luckily, Sunyet was still there, splashing about and irking noisily to himself.
Hi there, Sunyet, old buddy. Maybe you can do a little splashing about on this here Buntin and wash off some of that dirt.
Thank you for your trouble, Sunyet.
Not.
Lena, are you objecting to our notable efforts to rid the Buntin of this incalculable filth?
Too much splashing.
That's a problem, all right. I think, old buddy, maybe we can wash it off down at the pond.
I am afraid not, Sweetest, for Mr. Dugong would undoubtedly object that we were polluting the waters of the pond, and I would be forced to agree with him.
Well, what about the beach?
Too salty. Ugh.
That too is not the solution. For washing in the ocean would probably leave the Buntin with a certain salty taste forever.
Just then Snee came running up. He looked at the Buntin and stopped in his tracks. Then Sweeteth and Tink explained the problem of cleaning it to him, and Snee shook his head sadly.
My, that's a very difficult problem. But wait, I know what we can do. Tink can get a bucket and fill it with water from the pond and squirt it onto the Buntin with his trunk. That way, he won't dirty the pond. Remember, Tink, when you made Lena a bucket for the flower?
Hey, that's a great idea, Snee, old buddy.
Oh, magnificent! It was staring me right in the face, but I could not see it. Thank you, Snee. I will construct a bucket, fill it with pond water, and wash the Buntin.
And off they went to make the bucket. After Tink put it together and filled it with water, he lowered his trunk into the bucket, inhaled quickly, and then squirted a mighty stream all over the Buntin. In a short while, most of the dirt had been washed off, but the Buntin was still wet. But now it was an easy job for Tink. He whirled his trunk into action and in his usual style lowered it over the Buntin, sniffling and snorting until all the dirt and water had been cleaned off. Then he sneezed all the mess out of his trunk onto the ground, where Sweeteth quickly swept it up. The job was done. Proud and happy, they rushed over to Goose's house to give her back her Buntin. But Goose wasn't home. Sweeteth suggested checking at Lena's pool, and they quickly set out on their way. When they arrived at the pool, they saw Monk, Jowls, Goose, Lena, and Sunyet all gathered together. It looked as if Monk was just about to make a big apology, because he looked very sad. But Sweeteth rushed in with the Buntin before Monk could open his mouth.
Hi there, Goose, old buddy. Well, I found your Buntin when I was sweeping. It must have fallen off the tree. You ought to be happy that I got such a good cleaning broom.
Oh, thank you, Sweetest. Oh, my Buntin. Oh, my Buntin. Oh, thank you, Tink and Snee, for your help. Oh, my Buntin. Oh, my Buntin.
Pretty
otherwise trying day, I must say that I am quite relieved that Goose has her Buntin.
Oh, I'll say, and I need that Buntin, I'll tell you right now.
And Goose jumped up and down in happiness. After a while, she looked around at the rest of the animals with a big smile on her face.
Now that I got my Buntin back, I can be happy again. In fact, and furthermore, I can be happy again.
And as the animals of China laughed on into the night, once again Goose was in her Buntin, and all was well.